Hello, everyone. This is Makeda from the Boston Badoofs, and I'm joined here with my friend Hollowkid. Say hi.
Hello.
Cool.
Hello.
And we're going to be doing team rankings for the YCL. You can see all the 20 teams on the screen here. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be skipping me, because I feel like it'd be a little biased to use me as a rank myself, I guess. I will say, however, I do think I have one of the stronger teams, so I would be on the higher end of the spectrum just by pure Pokemon alone. I have gone through each team and rated them in a way that I think is accurate to not the player, but to the Pokemon that they have drafted, because I don't know each of you individually. And I want to say that if let's say you're ranked 20th in my list, that is not saying that your team is necessarily bad. It is saying that from a competitive standpoint, I think that there's a lot of improvements that could be made to it. And I don't know you as a player, so maybe you like the playstyle that you have drafted, and you can prove me wrong. So if I have insulted your team, please feel free to show me that I'm wrong in the future weeks of the YCL. You're more than welcome to. I am happy to see any cool plays or any cool memes in any battles. So, do you want to introduce yourself? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I am the coach of LA Lucarios. I'm in a different league where I started doing this personally, like looking at other team reviews and saying what I think they could possibly do and all that. It's been like tons of fun, and we've been wrong every time. So prove us
Well,
wrong.
we've been wrong about the outcomes of the matches specifically. We haven't really been wrong about the teams, because we're looking at the competitive aspects of the team, and not everybody is going to be utilizing them to their best abilities, or they might be doing something that we didn't think of. So I mean, there's always something to surprise us with. So
Yeah, like a blunder policy Zapdos.
so we're gonna start off with I guess 19, because we're skipping me. So team number 19 is the Phalanx de Guadalajara. Right off the bat, you can see they have 4 really strong Pokemon in Urshifu, Blacephalon, Metagross, Salamence. So I was like, why would you rate this low? And the reason is because if you look at them, like Grimmsnarl, Urshifu, both dark types, Salamence, Exeggutor, both dragon types, you got Metagross as your main wall that shares weaknesses with both Blacephalon and, is it just Blacephalon? I guess. But you have a lot of ground and fairy
Either
weakness.
way,
Yeah, either way.
yeah, nothing wants to take a knockoff on your
Nothing
top
wants to
core.
take a knockoff or a fairy hit. I mean, Metagross is the only thing that can take a fairy hit. And the top 5, I would say, are decently strong individually. But if you look at the Pokemons that you have added to the bottom, like the Exeggutor, Quillfish, Avalugg, Rhydon, they all have very similar weaknesses to your main 5. And so it's going to be really hard when someone brings those types that you don't have coverage for. Like, let's say, like Fairy again. Let's say you bring your Exeggutor Alola with your Grimmsnarl and Salamence and Urshifu. Fairy's going to give you a hard time. And if you bring Rhydon, that's something else weak to water with your Blacephalon and stuff like that. So you have a lot of overlapping weaknesses, and your walls don't necessarily want to take the same hits, or don't want to take hits the same way as your Blacephalon would. Like, Metagross can't protect Blacephalon from its weaknesses, which is something that is unfortunate in this specific team. But it's not the end of the world. Metagross can probably take a hit no matter what and hit back hard. And Blacephalon's really fast, so if you just whittle something down, maybe it's not afraid. So you have alternatives.
Yeah, well, the one thing I noticed about this team is you got a very heavy hitting team, which is awesome to play around. The Grimmsnarl, you're probably going to have to run max defensive, but it's not the best defender.
And it gets
Like,
screens, so that'll help a lot too.
And you get screens. Like, you got Prankster screens, that's great, that's lovely. And it's probably what you're going to be doing. But after week 1, people know. People can prep for that. They set up their defogs and brick breaks. And that's just a huge weakness.
Yeah.
It's like, what does this team do to a Mammoth Swine? What this team does, like what a Mammoth Swine does to this team is disgusting.
Scarf specifically, but yeah. If it's not Scarf Blacephalon, what do you do? I mean, yeah, if he clicks Earthquake, you go to Salamence and he switches and comes back later. But you have all these Weaknesses you have to look out for that just it's going to be rough. Like you have 2 ice weaknesses, 2 fairy weaknesses, 2 ground weaknesses, all shared within those main Pokemon that you want to use. So overall, power level very high. Urshifu, Blacephalon, hard hitters, very strong. Salamence, Metagross, also very strong, and Grimmsnarl is a great augmentation to those defensive balls with like Reflect and Light Screen, so you're not very defensive. But is that enough? We'll have to see. I don't think so. I think it can be augmented a lot, trading some of these lower tiers for maybe different types. You have a lot of ground, rock, and these water as well. Obviously, water's great, but
Fairy and your fighting weakness is going to be very fighting,
Yeah.
and ground weakness is going to be very sentimental to you.
Yeah.
You don't want it. You don't want that. But
Absolutely.
after week 1, do some changes.
yeah, exactly. I mean, test out the team, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe the offensive capabilities of those Mons are just strong enough to overcome most of the foes, but we'll have to see. So I put you at 19. No hard feelings, and I hope you prove me wrong, honestly, because you got some really strong stuff here.
Yeah.
Next up at 18th, we have the Nashville Nidokings. And the reason that this is so low, because you can see there's quite a few pretty strong mons, like Tapu Fini, Hippowdon, Weavile, all great. But I see a lot of contradictory things as well. Like you have both Hippowdon and Torkoal, and you have Fini, who prevents the statuses of those two who want to set up status just in general, because they're so bulky.
You kind of want to just like toxic stall and like keep like rapid spinning or
Mhm.
healing and just being a nuisance. But then you have Fini who's like
Nah.
you can't come in on a water attack and then still toxic things. So
Yeah.
it's a very very odd thing to run a double weather comp
Mm-hmm.
on yourself. And also like if you're setting up the sun for Charizard, then you're not bringing
Mm-hmm.
your ground type because you have a Charizard. So
Yeah.
it's like
I don't know. I
it's
think
very-
Hippowdon is a great standalone Pokemon, regardless if you're running a sand team. I think the sand is just a benefit for itself. But if you're going to be running weather, you kind of don't want to run another one. And what it does is it kind of separates your team into 2 different teams. So people can kind of figure out, oh, if he brings sun, I should be worried of this. But if he brings sand, I should be worried of this. And then you're not going to bring your Leafeon, Lilligant on your sand side of the team. You're going to bring your Lycanroc and maybe your Claydol. You're gonna try to benefit from the weather that you're setting up. And like I said before, maybe you can do a mix and you can bring like a different type, like White Smoke or Shell Armor Torkoal. Like sure, that's fine, but it thrives mostly in drought because it gives itself that water
but then
damage
setting
decrease.
up the sun, you get rid of your S tier who wants to hit those water modes pretty
Mhm.
hard. Because you're already running double fairy, and you kind of don't want to sub sun
Mhm.
for Weavile the Die to a flamethrower.
Yeah.
So
And another
it's a very weird team.
another
But
thing.
granted, I have played against this guy, and he
Oh, yeah?
ran a toxic stall team, which he was my first loss in the IPL. So
Okay.
he might prove himself.
Yeah. But the other thing I do want to point out is you have these 3 high tier mons, Fini, Hippowdon, Weavile. The only one that even benefits from weather at all is Hippowdon, and that's because it sets it itself. If you're going to draft 2 weather mons, you kind of want to centralize with that, especially on your main tier picks, like your Fini and your Weavile could have been replaced with something of a higher tier that would benefit from those weathers. Not saying that, like Diancie benefits from the sand, sure, but Diancie is not really an offensive mon. Like, if you could have nabbed Excadrill, that would have been fantastic. But Fini and Weavile, while they're great individually, with a pseudo-weather team, I'm not sure how effective it will be. But I hope you can prove that running dual weathers can be effective.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very interesting thing. I think you're going to have a very tough time in the beginning, but I think halfway through you're going to figure out like your team if you stay with it long enough. I personally want to stay with it, but
I mean, we don't have unlimited trades, so they can't trade that much. But maybe changing it to focus on one weather would be nice.
yeah,
I mean, I feel like while Hippowdon is good bulky, if you're running a Sun team in addition to it, it kind of detriments you because it removes the things that your your fire and your grass types kind of want, like, they want that sun up. So if you lose Torkoal and all you have is sand left, you can't benefit from solar power or chlorophyll. So yeah, that's why it's rated down here. You do have very powerful mons, but we'll have to see how they work together.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
We'll
definitely.
definitely keeping an eye out on this one.
Yeah. And then our team that we rated 17th is going to be the Lisbon Arcanines. And one of the reasons this team is so low is he traded a couple things. Like, he traded away his Bulu, which I found interesting. I think Bulu would have been great in addition to his Volcanion and Scizor, because while they're not necessarily scared of ground types, they definitely don't like to take those hits if they can help it, especially Volcanion.
And the Grassy Surge would just help keep Volcanion and Scizor alive longer. Drapion doesn't want to take any.
Yeah, Drapion as well.
So,
And Kabutops.
like, it was a very questionable decision on his behalf.
I mean, I'm sure he had his reasons, but we'll have to see what those are in battle, to be honest. Because Scizor is very powerful. Like, I think the flexibility that it provides and the damage it can deal is just ridiculous. While Volcanion is also very scary, provides a better Scald, and it's just an amazing typing. So I would have liked to see Bulu in addition to that, but you do have a lot of other things going for you, like the Corsola is really bulky. Flygon is always nice, it just wishes its stats were a little higher. And Heliolisk hits really hard no matter what, so at least you have your Fairy and Steel type. Don't really have a Dragon to go with that core, but
I mean, you have a Flygon, but like, it's not the greatest.
yeah. And you don't have a Grass type anymore since you traded off that Bulu, so you don't have the Fire, Water, Grass core either. But we'll have to see. I think overall your mons are above average, and we'll just have to see how they work together. Maybe I'm missing something that you planned for.
Maybe you got some ace in the hole that we obviously just cannot see, and then you get sweet. You sweet people.
I will say though that
That makes
Corsola is great. They're great for taking those hits, because a lot of your mons don't really want to take any hits.
Trick it into a scarf or something like that. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Trick it into Scarf and then have it click Strength Sap on your Espeon? Yeah.
Yeah.
Throwback. Okay. Next up is Mississippi Morpekos, and the reason that this is low, because you do have some really threatening things like Victini, Hawlucha, Milotic, all really good individually, is because I feel like you're kind of missed out on an opportunity to pick up some ground types to synergize with your team. You have Thwackey for that Hawlucha Unburdened synergy, but then you're forced to bring your Thwackey, which is not an ideal choice in most situations, even though you do like having that grass type. I feel like... Go ahead.
It's very questionable that, like, you didn't set up a terrain setter. Like, paired up with Bulu would be nice. Now that it's free, you should probably think more into it. Or maybe Pinjunction to set up electric terrain, because that would also help Victini and Hawlucha with, like, the Thunder Punch and Wild... is it Wild Charge? It's Vikavolt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Melodic will live most things with Flame Orb, Marvel Scale. So, I think just setting up a terrain, as bad as it is, and I hate the terrain to Hawlucha combo, I think it just makes this team so much better.
Yeah. You have a lot of ground resistances, but not a ground... Like, you have Runerigus, which it's okay. It's a decent ground type. But your two flyers are both offensive, so once that Runerigus is gone, electric types are going to wreak havoc on your team. Yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like, Hawlucha's really fast, and it could probably kill most electric types with a close combat, but do you really want to risk that? Yeah, do you really want... Like, Runerigus is decent, but if you could pick up another ground type, or if you can figure out a way to reduce your electric weakness, maybe trade it, because you have Hawlucha and Moltres, and I get that there's one's physical and one is special, but maybe you swap one out for something else, maybe some defensive flying type. I know Mandibuzz is free. There's a couple good, and Skarmory. There's a couple good defensive flyings that no one picked up. I noticed a lot of people didn't pick up flying types, which is Very bad.
Our higher tier teams are going to be lacking a certain type, and I'm going to be screaming later.
Yeah. So
But with,
that
like
being
with
said,
this team, I'm actually kind of excited.
yeah,
As low as we put it all together, it's
yeah,
just on paper it does not. We can't see the synergy right away. But I'm actually excited to see it because you have Klefki with the thunder waving. You
yeah,
have
that'll
it
help.
to set up screens. Like, you have ways to sweep
Hmm.
without using the psychic seed.
Yeah,
Or
and you don't need
the
it because you have
yeah.
close combat wide herb. Like, there's alternatives, but
And I think everyone's been more spoiled with the grassy seed Halucha, so it's like time to
yeah,
bring
or
back some
electric seed.
throwbacks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you can find like a volt absorber or something, that would be really great for your team. Like whatever it is, just because that electric weakness is pretty bad. It's not the end of the world though. Like your Halucha is super fast and your Melodic can take any hit. So we'll see. Like it's not a bad team at all, and it's kind of rough because a lot of these teams they're good, like they're decent, but there's so many teams that they have to be lower than maybe they otherwise would be in another league. So that's another thing to note.
yeah, which is always pretty weird.
All right, so now we're going to the 15th team, and that is the Atlanta Talonflames. Now, on paper, I think I rated this the highest, just individually, because no, not the highest, second highest, because Mew, Primarina, Entei, Galvantula, Aerodactyl, Virizion, all really strong, solid Pokemon individually. But when you look at the team a little more, you kind of have a hard time really noticing the synergy. You have
Die
Sticky
to freeze
Webs.
dry.
Oh, true. Die to freeze dry. But you see, Sticky Webs kind of complements that a little bit because a lot of your strong mons like Primarina and Dragalge, even Lapras or Morpeko, they're a little slower than you would like them to be. And Sticky Webs helps that a lot. So the Galvantula was definitely a great pickup for that. But otherwise, you still have a really large rock weakness. You have Galvantula, Aerodactyl, Lapras, and Entei all not wanting to take rock hits. While Entei probably has to run heavy duty boots because you have
don't want it to be checked.
you don't have much removal. I think it's just Mew with Defog, if I remember correctly. Maybe Aerodactyl too.
Aerodactyl and Morpeko gets rapid spin.
Oh, I forgot about that. But so yeah, that's cool. Morpeko with rapid spin is nice. But
you do have the huge potential of setting up almost all the hazard setters.
yeah,
And with Mew being able to literally do anything, that sounds awesome.
yeah,
But I personally think like an earthquake hurts your team a lot.
and like you said earlier, freeze dry hurts. Any ice type really hurts your team. If doesn't have freeze dry, if it doesn't have freeze dry and Primarina's still alive, like once Primarina's gone, it's gonna be rough. I mean, you got Entei too, but I don't know. Most ice types have water attacks and other stuff as well. Like Mamoswine has earthquake. Like it's just gonna be Mamoswine seems to be a big threat for a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
So whoever drafted them, congrats.
Even though that we put your team pretty low, you got an A+ on your icon.
Yeah, the icon's really great. No, like he's not even. I mean, 15. It seems low, but like he's got Mew.
20.
Yeah, Mew, Galvantula, and all that stuff. Like he's got some good stuff. I think he can make it work. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You do have a huge rock root. That's your main thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But I also think not having a decent flying type, Aerodactyl's good and all, but like you just want that to go fast and hit hard. You don't want that to come in on attacks. And I feel like flying is a really good defensive type.
This is another team that doesn't have a ground type and they don't have a steel type, which is probably those are two of the most important types in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. There's no outstanding core either. You don't have. I mean, you got Virizion, Primarina, Entei, I guess, as a fire water grass, but it could be better. I feel like there's definitely not very well, but there is potential, absolutely potential for this team.
Because Virizion doesn't want to eat an earthquake for Entei.
Yeah. All right.
It can.
Oh, it can, but it doesn't want to. All right, next up. 14th is the Indiana Tracers. The reason this is so low, because your top three are very powerful, um, is that
I
you
hate
have
Coco. That's why.
no, your offense is really strong. Like Cinderace, Kartana, Coco, very strong, but your
It's
walls aren't the
disgusting.
best. Yeah,
It's you have a very disgusting top three.
hmm
But that's kind of it. Who is defending you from these earthquakes?
yeah. I mean, you got
You have
Sigilith
Quagsire
Wheezing.
and yeah, it's like, but it like you have Dredagon and Quagsire that come in for the earthquakes, sure,
Mhm.
but it's like okay, but who's stopping the earth powers?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
there, earthquake isn't your only problem. Like,
hmm
it's just
Ghosts.
disgusting. Like, Exadrill is gonna run through this team.
Yeah, and ghosts are scary. Like you got Lanoon and you got Jigglypuff, but that means you have to bring either Lanoon or Jigglypuff, which is kind of honestly more detrimental to you than beneficial in most situations. Because all Jigglypuff has going for it is its HP stat, and Lanoon, I mean, I guess it could work with the Eviolite, but um, in reality, you want to use any of your other 9 instead of those. And like I don't know, Spectrier, or I don't. Did someone draft Gengar? I don't think so. No one drafted Gengar, but like there's other ghost types you want to be worried about, and you got no resists for them, just those immunities. No dark types. Maybe swap something for a dark type.
Uh, yeah, and if you're gonna rely on Cinderace, Libero, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not gonna work every week.
And one thing I'll say for sure, this team hates being burnt. And since your
Yeah.
only fire type is Cinderace with Libero, it could still get burnt, which is problematic.
It's very weird,
Yeah,
and that's probably the only reason why it's low. I mean,
it's
obviously,
very physical too.
on paper you could see the Slurpuff, like mayhem that you can cause here, but
Yeah,
it's only gonna work once,
yeah.
maybe twice.
No, I mean it could work, but you have to set it up really well, and it can also just be sticky web support. It doesn't have to be belly drum.
Well, I was just thinking like maybe Electric Seed.
Yeah, true. But then you don't get the +6, which is what really makes it strong.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to 13, we have Calexico Blazikens, hosted by Sen. And I found this team to be very interesting because you have both Slowbro and Slowking Galar, which they're both very solid, but I feel like together they're problematic because you have overlapping weaknesses on your walls. Ghost and Dark are both very scary, but you do have Zarude and Mienshao to kind of mitigate that. Regardless, Mienshao doesn't really want to take any hit. It doesn't want to be knocked off because usually it needs its item to do its damage. And Zarude, it's not bad. I mean,
I just thought of it, but our last team, Libero Cinderace U-turn is going to mess you up. Like, unless you come in
on this team?
Yeah, this team gets messed up by a U-turn.
Yeah.
Like your top 3, and then Manchild, you don't want to take it. You want to get that end cleanly, or just lead with it.
Yeah.
Like
it's
as
fast.
a generator, it's not good.
Yeah, I mean it's good, but it's fast. Yeah. It's fast, but it can't take many hits. So, yeah. So I mean, your team. I feel like your top 6 very interesting. Probably will be what you go through for most weeks, but I will say, being restricted to Mawile and Morgrem as your fairies, kind of a problem.
And Mawile is most likely always going to come because that's your major bug weakness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, like you're locked in with him.
Another team that is also very heavily physical. Your only special are your 2 walls, your 2 Slowbro, Slowking. So, yeah.
I mean, granted, you can go overheat Talonflame, that'd be just fine. But honestly, if you're not trying to be like a toxic stall Talonflame and go on like flame bodies, questionable.
Yeah. Definitely see potential in this team, though. If that Mienshao could just come in and constantly be a nuisance, I mean, it's going to do damage. And Talonflame is very bulky despite how low its stats look, and Flame Body is one of the best abilities in the game, so that can help you a lot.
Yeah.
And does Zarude get aromatherapy? Do you know?
I believe Jungle Healing heals its own toxic.
It heals its own status, yeah, but I don't think...
I actually have the team.
It doesn't.
No, it has no cleric.
No.
This team actually has no cleric. Their only hazard
Yeah.
setter is Malwell.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, this is very questionable.
Yeah, I
So
would recommend maybe picking up, like we said, burn was really detrimental to you. So if you want to pick up some sort of cleric, that would probably help your team a lot.
and as bad as it sounds, Mancho, as good as it is, like probably could be the one that can be switched out.
Uh, I like it. It's a
Right?
good core with the slow bro, but I
Oh,
think you don't need.
I'm
I
just
don't think
looking
you
at the
need
rest of
both.
the team.
Yeah, I don't think you need both slow bro and slow king. I think you got maybe want to swap one of those out.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they're both weak to the same things, and while the Mian Shao and Zarud cover those weaknesses potentially, if you're using walls, you kind of want them to have beneficial resistances for one another. All right, we're moving
And,
on. Okay, go ahead.
Toxapex is still available.
Yeah, well,
I'm just saying.
but that doesn't help him really that much. That just gives him another water or another poison.
Yeah, once it came out, I was like, oh, you know what? I don't know.
Maybe not for this team, but for every other team that's listening. Toxapex.
Toxapex.
Yeah.
Man, I got some things. I got some things to tell you guys. There's some flying boys in A tier that you guys need to pick up.
Yeah. All right. And next up is the James River Jolteon. This team, very interesting. I think it's definitely scary. But one thing you will note is your top two attackers are both dragons, which is very bad because fairies are extremely, extremely powerful. And while Dracovish on his own could just 6-0 on the wrong team, it's still not guaranteed. So you want to have backups, and you have a steel type, but you have no flying type. So you're probably going to have to be restricted to using air balloon on something like Salazzle.
Oh, and it begins.
And Jolteon. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very odd that you decided to go with a double dragon comp. Very, I guess your two heavy hitters. This team does not take a freeze drive very well, and then
A lot of teams don't.
Yeah, like
It's also very physical again.
yeah, Hiram does work on this team, and that's something that you might want to look more into, but you never know. Like,
Yeah.
You said this is your week 1 opponent, right?
Yes.
So we'll find out soon.
Yeah, I guess so. But another thing to note is your main walls, Tangrowth and Scavalier, both hate fire. Snorlax has that thick fat, doesn't really care. Still doesn't want to be burnt though, so fire is going to be a problem because even though your Haxorus Dracovish resist fire, they don't want to risk getting that burn. So you're going to need to find something, maybe potentially like picking up another water type or something to take those fire attacks because you got a lot of physical that doesn't want to be burnt.
Just saying, Pelipper, it's there. Vicious Ren is a
True.
Water attack.
True. Classic.
It will go really well with Dracovish. But yeah, not having a flyer type. Now you see the Dracovish, you see the Haxorus, the Tangrowth. They're like, all right, cool. I could click freeze strike, easy win, and knowing you're insta have to bring Snorlax because of that, because of thick fat.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, cool. I can make them think I'm gonna click Ice Beam or Freeze Dry or something like that.
Him on top helps too.
And Focus Pass.
Yeah.
It's like
Him on top helps that, but still, like,
your team
it doesn't
is
like
very
those hits.
easy to read. Now you can call their bluff and stay in and Vicious Ran everything to death.
But listen, what we said, all of the answers are all physical.
Yeah.
You got a special sweeper in Salazzle, and Jolteon's a nice revenge killer. Everything else pretty much physical, doesn't want to be burnt. So definitely something you should look at. And another thing that's interesting to me is a lot of these teams in their E tiers, they just kind of picked up random first stage Pokemon like Igglybuff, Rhyhorn. I mean, Rhyhorn's got okay stats for being a first stage, but Igglybuff, I don't know why you would pick that. I mean, I guess it was a meme, and I think you were posting about it in the lobby chat, but there's so many good E tiers that were overlooked for being E tiers. Like, I was 20th pick, I got the last pick, and I got Klinklang, and I feel like Klinklang is probably one of the best E tiers that was in that list overall. So
another major thing
yeah.
is that you only have Rhyhorn as your stealth rock user. That's your only user. You only have him on top as your rapid spin. That already means like I can set up hazards if you don't have him on top. I don't have to worry about defog if you don't have Rhyhorn. It's like I can eat those. Like,
Yeah.
and Dragovich wants things to come in on Stealth Rock, so then it has a better chance of just sweeping.
Yeah, and that way you don't have to worry about sashes and stuff.
So like Salazzle is a good pick and all because you can come in fast, toxic. You don't even have to put any attacking moves and just do things. And Tangrowth is also good for that reason. Like you can run Rocky Helmet, chip things down, go back out, do it again. But I think without having a Rock Setter, it's kind of it's suspicious. It's weird. It's
Yeah.
You're gonna have a tough time.
I feel like this team is basically forced to bring both Salazzle and Jolteon every week because of how physically
I
prominent
feel like
it
it's
is.
Salazzle and Snorlax. Like
I mean,
I feel like he's forced into.
But I
Snorlax
mean,
and
what I'm
Snorlax.
saying is he's gonna have to leave out like Haxorus or Tangrowth or something because he wants to have more special on his team. He only has the 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to pick up your mascot, but you also gotta find some balance as well. And you have a lot of ground weakness. Like both special attackers are ground weak. So if you got a if you're going against like a Mudsdale or something, like it's gonna be rough. So I mean, did anyone even pick? I don't even think anyone picked up Mudsdale. So never mind.
I was getting it ready. I was like, the best news is no one picked up Mudsdale.
True. All right, well, so let's go on to the next team. I don't remember what number we're on, so we're just gonna go for it. And it is Trash Town Thievals. So at first glance, that core right there, awesome, great core.
Just for the name though, we wanted to put in 20 of them.
No, just
Because it's
because you're offended about your
Oh
your
no.
house.
That thing is ugly, dude. Oh, hey.
So
No, but I actually love this team. This team is disgusting.
Yeah,
You have
team's good.
probably one of the best
Cores.
top tier cores.
Mhm.
Because they just complement each other so well.
I think your top 5 minus Cloyster really solid. I don't think Cloyster is exactly necessary on this team because you already have Kyurem for an ice type. If that was swapped out for another water type that maybe didn't share the type with Kyurem, I would think it would be a lot better. You also have a big electric weakness between your 3 right there, Togekiss, Cloyster, Crobat. You do have Stunfisk in the back, but then you have to bring your Stunfisk, which I do think is better at first than it looks at first glance. But you also have an ice weakness. Good thing you're the one with Kyurem though, because Kyurem's the biggest ice threat. But Mamoswine again, threat.
Right. I was gonna say instead of Cloyster, Gastrodon is there. That would complement your team.
Oh, is it?
A lot. Yes, Gastrodon is available. So.
Hey, what tier is that, real quick? So another thing you should note is your only normal type, which is your ghost resist or immunity, is your Ditto, which means that you don't have anything to take a ghost hit, because if Ditto switches in, unless you're running Limber for some reason, you don't have anything that resists a ghost attack. So that's going to be problematic. Your Dragon Fairy Steel Core is fantastic though, so I mean just those 3, as long as you use your other Pokemon to support them, I think this could be a very powerful team. But
you have a ways of maneuvering around this.
Absolutely.
Actually destroying people. But
yeah. Crobat's great.
Cloyster will actually destroy if you're able to get this smash off.
Yeah, of course.
But I just don't like relying on stuff like that. And I'm more of a pivot user, so
I agree. And your only fast thing, I guess, between I mean, there's Kyurem and your Crobat. That's pretty much it. Except Reboot, but let's be honest, Reboot, it doesn't even get chord change. I mean, it could be useful, but I feel like there's much better options in C tier. Maybe pick up a normal type that can deal with those ghosts, or something that, or maybe a fighting type for those ice weaknesses. So you got options.
Number one ghost killer, Diggersby.
Oh yeah, that's free too. And you've
Diggersby
noticed a lot of things are weak to ground.
Yeah.
I don't know what tier it is though. That might be A tier.
Diggersby is a B, and
Oh, B.
Casino is a C.
Sheesh, swap out that Cloyster for a Diggersby though.
Yeah.
Definitely
you
pick up
wouldn't have
another
a
water type. Definitely pick up
wouldn't
another
have
one.
a water type. I would prioritize a water type, but there's an Arctovish.
Yeah, Arctovish could be a good C tier. That's C, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that gives you no fire type, but to be honest, if you're using Rabuda as your only fire type, you don't really need a fire type. I would, I
I'm
would,
gonna be honest with y'all. I don't look at your bottom three at all. I don't. If you,
Stunfisk
honestly,
is good.
yeah, kinda like here and there for like
Yeah,
certain situations. But I'd be like, clap to you for bringing this. I don't care.
exactly. I see the Swirlix, Ivysaur, and I go, this guy has 9 Pokemon. That's what
Yeah,
I would think.
exactly. I look at those going, he just wanted the draft to be over. That's it.
Hmm.
Plain and simple.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that because
No.
you spend your points on your strong stuff, but there's one detriment to doing that, and that is it makes your team a lot more predictable because you have less good things overall. I like to balance my team out through every tier using all my points because that way I have options for every match that people might have to worry about, you know? Like, I don't think anyone's gonna be scared of a Swirlix or an Ivysaur. I mean, Ivysaur, nah, I just looking at its stats. It just doesn't seem to do anything. Like it's a good filler for your E tier if you need those points, or you needed to buy something cheap. But outside of absorbing toxic spikes, I can't really see it doing much. So
Yeah, that's all it's good for. And other than just like having it be like, hey, I won the league with this. Yeah, baby. Like, that's it. Like, I picked up Drake Lug for that reason, and that's it.
so that's about it for this team. Not bad at all. So like that core, fantastic. But let's see this next team. Cerulean City Mewtwo. They have Dragapult and Nidoking, two very prominent special attackers, and Azumarill Cobalion, really good physical attackers. Dragapult could be mixed, but mostly I like it. I like it special because it doesn't have to be restricted to like Phantom Force and stuff. But Glacier Umbreon as well. That being said, looking at your bottom 5, Vespiquen and Xatu, Tangela, they could be useful, but Boldore, Trapinch, not really. I mean, prove me wrong, please. I would love to see a Boldore sweeping. That'd be great. But that also
I don't
means
even
you.
see those mons. Like, I'm not looking at them.
That also means. Cobalion gets Stealth Rocks, right? I want to say yes, but that means if it doesn't,
Yeah.
you don't really have. You have to do
Yeah, but
Boldore
you have
for your Stealth Rocks.
And okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like,
Does it get it too?
yeah. Stealth
Oh.
Rocks, yeah.
You kind of don't want to run it on Nidoking, though. You want to run full offense, Life Orb, Sheer Force. But you can, so the option's there.
But the
So,
thing is that you have options compared to others.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's good. That's one of the reasons that you're higher up. But the one thing you're missing, you'll notice you don't have a fire type. Your flying types are not your best. You got Xatu, Vespiquen. But your main 3 could be primarily physical. Dragapult's mixed, but you got to be careful. Like, sometimes you're probably going to want to run physical. But you did draft Dragapult's biggest counter, which I think is Umbreon. So that's good for you because you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, so you can complement each other very well with it too. So you don't have to worry too much about it. So I personally would look more into maybe getting a better flying type. I do like
Yes,
Xatu
absolutely.
because of Energy Bounce, but
It's not
you
great.
do have a lot of rockers. Yeah.
I would prefer Espeon every time. But another thing to note is if you look at just these top 6, because these are okay. You could bring them some weeks, but the only thing here that's going to deal with ground types, Glacier and Azumarill. And Glacier is not going to outspeed any of the ground types. And Azumarill, that's pretty much your only option.
Huge power, choice band, Aqua Jet might be able to.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing here
Umbreon's
wants to
tanky,
eat.
but
Nothing wants to eat it though. Like Umbreon sure can eat it. It can wish up. It can go back to being healthy, but
you have no
won't be
real
able to
answer.
wish. Yeah, you won't be able to wish and transfer that wish to something else unless you baton pass.
No, I think Umbreon's bulky enough to take a couple Earthquakes, but that's besides the point. The point is, once those are gone, Earthquakes are just going to wreck your team. So that's something to be careful of. That's why having a good flyer is extremely important, because ground types are just disgusting.
A lot of these teams now we're going to look at, they're like, look what a Mamoswine could do.
Yeah, exactly. And Nidoking is fast and gets Ice Beam and stuff like that, but a lot of ground types are fast. Like, what are you going to do to a Garchomp? It's going to die. You're going to die to Earthquake. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. You switch into a Azumarill, that Earthquake's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And then at that
it's like
point,
you want to keep those mons healthy.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
you have a problem like someone else has of like something on here is going to be carrying air that doesn't
Yeah.
want to be wasting its life.
yeah. All right, moving on. Overall, I think this team is quite solid. Your top 4 are very scary, but we'll have to see how you use it. Dundee
Bolt could be very
Dittos.
scary.
Absolutely. Dragapult's very scary, so that's why I feel like that one just on its own should be ranked a little higher.
We're gonna start this with the.
Yeah, because
Because-
Celesteela is gross. Celesteela is nasty, and I mean, it's pretty good with your team, I guess. Like, I don't really see.
No, your team is disgusting, and that's why it's a little bit higher
Mhm.
than everyone else's. Savali, as much as I hate the tiering for it, like
It's
you
decent.
have good coverage on your team, so
Mhm.
it can do anything. It can replace anything. But running Celesteela and Noivern is very questionable to me. Because
Yeah.
now Thunderbolt, once Seismitoad's gone, Thunderbolt hurts your
Yeah.
team.
Something that I did notice is that your team would love Trick Room, but really the only thing
Right.
that could set it up is Slowbro. I see you got that Vulpix and Sandslash combo at the bottom. I don't really see that ever being viable. And while Sandslash is really strong, got great type in Ice Steel, I mean, then you have to run the Vulpix. You don't have to. I mean, you can set up your own Hail. But at that point, just swap Vulpix out for something else, you know? Like, I feel like it's not going to do enough. But the Celesteela and the Rotom-Mow, Seismitoad, Marowak, Slowbro, all great options. I think they work decently well with one another. But Dark and Ghost, like a lot of other teams, still going to be very scary, especially for that Slowbro, Marowak. And you really don't have a resist unless you do bring like a Silvally with an actual item and not a drive on it. You don't really have a normal type.
If anyone ever sees Vulpix in the team review, they're just going to brick break it. Because the only way I see it ever
True.
doing is if it's Focus Sash and sets up Veil.
Yeah, Focus Sash or Veil is definitely a idea that can happen, but at base 65 speed, it'll be in there once and then it'll be gone because it just can't live a hit. There's nothing it can do. Its highest stat is 65.
It's a baby.
Yeah, and you're gonna let someone punch a baby? That's so rude. But yeah.
Your team is pretty solid. It's pretty scary, but like just looking at it, we spent quite some time looking at it. We noticing the flaws, but
Yeah.
you still have coverage.
And I like everything but the Vulpix.
Yeah.
Team looks really solid
Which isn't
besides
even
it.
that bad because it's the only E tier you have.
Yeah, and I mean it's an E tier that can do something for your team. So I mean it's better than a lot of the other ones that I've seen picked up.
Yeah. And granted, all you have to do is click Leaf Seed and Automatize on Celesteela and people
True.
panic.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Rustboro City Rejects. The man Arts himself. Now, at first glance, this is a very scary team. Like Spectrier, Dragonite, Urshifu, Incineroar, all scary. But I forgot what he's lacking. There's, oh yeah, another person with
Oh, he has
a
Dragonite.
big fairy weakness.
Okay, yeah. He also has a pretty big ground weakness. I know he has 2 grass types and Dragonite, but it's like
And Golbat.
another.
And
the
Rotom.
main weakness that I noticed is nothing here wants to take a knockoff again.
Yeah.
Knockoff and rocks will hurt this team.
Yeah. And you have no fairy or steel. Another problem.
Your only rock setter is Marowak.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's unfortunate. I didn't notice that. You got Eldegoss for a good spinner, though. Good bulky spinner.
Well, you have Golbat for default, and you have. Well, never mind.
Mhm.
I was gonna say Frost, but I don't look at Mons that low. Then again, you have like one of the best D tier seven. Why is it D tier? Oh my god. Type Null.
Type Null, yeah. Type Null's really
Type Null.
bulky.
Type Null is a nuisance. It's just a beast. Like
Yeah.
that's gonna be as bad as it sounds. That's gonna be coming a lot.
Mhm.
You do have Spectre.
Yeah.
that does not want to eat a Shadow Ball.
Yeah. And you got a very offensive water, fire, grass core in Urshifu, Incineroar, Sceptile. Uh, but that leads you to have your Pokemons as Cresselia, Dragonite, and Dragonite can take a hit, but not many after that multi-scale breaks. And the Cresselia, I don't think that really benefits you much because it's weak to the same things that Spectrier is.
Yeah, and then like another Mon that doesn't want to lose its item is type Null.
Mm-hmm. And
So
go
it's
back.
like a Choice Scarf knockoff user hurts this team a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not something you want to see, but you have ways of playing around it. Honestly.
Absolutely. It's a very solid team. Like those top six alone, if you just cut it off at six, very strong team. Nothing overlapping in types. Strong
Granted,
offensive core. Two bulky
you have
mons.
no way to stop a dragon move. A Draco Meteor hurts this team
Yeah,
a lot.
you need a fairy.
Yeah.
But I would say that about every team. Every team needs a fairy.
Yeah, but you didn't drop one. So.
But you got Spectrier there, which will chunk a dragon really hard. So you have ways around it, and you got Sceptile with, if you trigger its Unburden, you can get Dragon Pulses off. You can deal with them in ways. It's just not... I mean, Rotom Frost as well, with the ice attacks, but you typically don't want to bring Rotom Frost. There's a reason it's one of the lower tier Rotom forms, is because it's not as good as the others, and you have to use Blizzard. If they got Ice Beam, oh man.
This is also another team that like does not want to get freeze dry.
Yeah.
With the
So-
Urshifu and Dragonite, it's like
Yeah.
freeze dry. Like so, be careful, Kirim.
And the grass
For sure.
types and Golbat and stuff, everything.
Mm.
So yeah, there's a lot of things you got to look out for. But as a very offensive team, I think they're very solid. They work well together. It covers a lot of bases, and yeah, it's just solid overall. So we'll
This
have
is
to
true.
see.
Why do you need a Wish Setter or Rock Setter if you go fast and you hit hard?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what that team does.
Exactly. Next up, Battlefield Torracats. This team is scary because, one, you have 4 S tiers. Like, that's just insane. And in addition to that, of the 4 S tiers, you have Pokemon that complement their weaknesses pretty well. So Heatran, Hydreigon, both weak to fighting. You got the Tornadus Therian, and you got the Celebi, and you got the Palisand. You got things to deal with that. As for water, you got Hydreigon, you got Zeraora, you got Celebi. For ground, you got Hydreigon, Tornadus. You got, like, they all complement the weaknesses of each other pretty well. That being said, it makes your team extremely easy to predict for, because you have Heatran, Hydreigon, Tornadus, Zeraora every week, Celebi, Palisand. Because Persian, it can swap out with Palisand once in a while, but Clefairy, Glalie, Cubfu, Wartortle, almost never going to bring those. I could see a merit for bringing Glalie, maybe Clefairy once in a while. The other two, not so much.
No, unless you have some like mean team. Clefairy is the only one I can actually see, like you just said. But like Glalie doesn't really do much for your team. And in all honesty, I think like as much as the core, the top 4 is really good. I just think spending all that tier money.
Yeah,
when
on
you
S
coulda
tiers.
spread it out. Yeah, could have spread it out better. One major thing on this in this thing is you don't have a water type, buddy.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna look out. Don't look at War Turtle. That thing's. I'm gonna kick it, in real. But a Vaporeon hurts his team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure, Zeraora comes in, but like it hurts still.
Ice types hurt too. Once that Heatran's gone, ice hurts.
Yeah.
I will say though, very good balanced resistances on those top 4. They cover each other pretty well, but you're not flexible. And the flexibility of having a team, if you're just gonna run 6 Pokemon, right? Just go play OU on Showdown or something, because the point of a draft league is so you can predict, like, having the fun of it is predicting the teams and figuring out what you're gonna do. And when you're making a team like this, I mean, it's good to rely on those powerful 4, like they're really solid mons. But eventually, it's gonna come back at you because I mean, it's easy to predict what you're gonna bring every week, and that's not if it's a strong enough core that it doesn't matter if they know what you're gonna bring. Then I mean, hey, more power to you.
I mean, granted, Heatran can be super defensive
Mm-hmm.
and eat the close combats,
Mm-hmm.
and with Flame Body, no longer cares about it, and then you can try to wish it back up with Celebi, and like
But for
it
example,
makes
right?
sense. Or Clefairy.
For example,
Clefairy.
what do you do against Excadrill? Instead of having two ground immunities, you now have one, because Hydreigon doesn't want to take an Earthquake. Mold Break Earthquake. And Tornadus still doesn't want to take a Rock Slide, so like, or an Iron Head. Like, there's...
I'm gonna tell you real quick.
What's
Die.
up? Yeah, I mean, there's some flaws in here, and that's okay, because obviously no one's going to draft a perfect team, but...
With a 20-man draft, things
Yeah.
get sniped. You get
Oh,
panicked,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
and it makes sense. But this is a great time to like hear outside point of views on this. Like, I don't know how you play. I'm looking at just a team on paper.
Exactly.
And if honestly it doesn't work, trade out.
Yeah.
There's still great stuff up in there.
I like the 4. I do like the 4, but if it's possible to swap them things out from your C's or your E's, like there's good E options that people didn't pick up.
Right.
Good C options that could benefit you better than those because you have
I
overlapping fighting and ice weaknesses.
Maybe Zero Aura could be the one that you trade out and then start switching them around. Only because like I do like the Hydreigon.
I like Zeraora.
I mean I do too, but I'm just saying like
It
out of
covers
those
his electric
4.
weakness.
Yeah. Well, you have Palisade for that.
Yeah, Celebi. But the point is that's not his S tier. Like out of the 4, like you can just swap between the 4 depending on what the opponent brings and have a pretty good matchup because they all cover each other somehow. So I think it's very solid 4. It's just you want the rest of your team to complement it, and I don't think that they complement it very well.
But the 4 is still scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
You only need 1 mon to 6-0.
All right. Next up, Athabasca Miltanks. I think I said that right. I will say, very good core.
Oh, I love this thing.
Yeah, this team's great. You got Rotom, Jellicent, Serena. I think Serena's great. Very sleeper. Just preventing
You got my boy
priority.
Miltank. Miltank is thick. I
Yeah,
love it.
Miltank is nuts. But Tyrantrum is a really strong attacker, but it's very slow. So you got a couple things you got to worry about. You got a lot of C tiers, which could probably be swapped out. Like Sandaconda, it's a ground type, which is nice, but I'm sure there's a better ground type in there. But it does absorb status as well. I just personally don't like it. I don't know why. It did
You
decent.
don't like it, but honestly, I do like the Sandaconda. Sandaconda is like a really good rock type, so that
Mhm.
Miltank doesn't have to carry rocks for you.
Yeah.
It can eat those toxics up and hopefully get rid of them. Honestly, the Sandaconda isn't really the bigger problem. I
Mhm.
think Rabombi. I don't like Rabombi much. That's a personal thing,
Mhm.
but not having like a super strong fairy seems
Yeah.
odd.
I mean, Dedene's down there, and Dedenne swept you in random battles.
Yeah, but that was random.
It won't be random in Draft League, though.
Yeah, that's the thing is that you get
It's possible. That's the point.
You get swept by one thing. People learn.
True. I will say, though, beware of water types. Once that Jellicent is gone, and that Serena's gone, water types going to be scary. Offensive, specifically. Like Rotom Heat, it could probably outspeed most water types, but it's still weak to it. So you don't want to take those hits. You don't have to.
Was this the team that said that it's gonna get washed up?
Maybe, yeah. I think so.
I think this actually was.
Yeah, good thing you don't have to worry about Rotom Wash unless you make it to the playoffs, so.
But I do like the Corviknight pick. I think Makeda did say something that it really only has 2 sets now,
Yeah,
and it makes it a lot harder to do. But
Mhm.
I'm really excited to see.
yeah. I think Corviknight is definitely a solid, powerful defensive mon, but the lack of flexibility, like, in comparison to something like Rotom Heat, is pretty bad. Like, Rotom Heat can run all kinds of sets while Corviknight's restricted to a few. And I think the flexibility is what makes draft leagues, or Pokemon in draft leagues, so powerful, is because you can run so many different things that they're not expecting and just catch them off guard.
Yeah.
moving on to the next team. We're getting towards the end here. These are the better teams, or almost like the strongest ones that we thought were in this league. Rillaboom Mamoswine, and then Volcarona Starmie. Got the two physicals, two specials. Oh, the Austin Tauros. So you got the two physical sweepers and the two special sweepers, complemented by Vaporeon Weezing for the special and physical walls.
Okay.
Very solid.
This is a great team. I love it. I hate this team though. At the same time, again, we're gonna take a quick look. All right, you guys should notice what's wrong with it. Where's your flying type?
You also don't have a fighting type.
With this team, I also think that it hasn't been picked up yet. Manabuzz or Starmie would work so well on this team. Like obviously, you're not worried about earthquakes, so you didn't really care about picking up a flying type. But flying type is still such a good typing.
Yeah, you definitely want a bulky flying on this team. I think especially Mandibuzz specifically would be great. But fire types are scary for you. And if anyone could take advantage of your Rillaboom grassy terrain, that's going to be scary as well. But overall, it's very solid. The Pokemon are very powerful. You got good sweepers, good walls, good balance of special and physical. Yeah.
This could be a very disgusting team.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like is the Starmie, but
that's because you don't like having Starmie and Vaporeon like that.
Yeah, I don't like having a double water type because
I think water is
both?
I think the water, I brought it several weeks this season. Double water is probably one of the few that I am okay with.
Yeah.
Because I brought my Lantern Primarina a lot.
Yeah, I always found that weird. But you know what? You were 7-0 and then got swept.
True.
I
got hacked, sir. Okay. Next up, solid team overall. So this next team, the reigning champ, I believe, with the Blaziken, Excadrill, Latios, Tyranitar. Extremely scary. Sylveon as well.
Give me their name.
3 Electrons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're looking them up.
I can't see. Yeah.
Gotcha. It ended?
Yeah.
Oh.
But don't worry about it.
Okay.
This team is extremely scary. Like, this is another team. Like, that Mamoswine is what we use as an example of, like, what is this team going to do to it? Here's another one. Like, without the flying types people and you relying on Levitate, what is a Mold Breaker Excadrill going to do to you?
A lot.
This boy's got it.
Yeah.
This person's got it.
And they got the Tyranitar, so they don't have to run Sand Rush every week. They could still run Scarfed Mold Breaker. It's going to do work, but that sand still helps in the situations where they don't want to lock themselves in. And they don't need the Mold Breaker. Seems nuts. And they got a really strong D tier in Regice to complement those weaknesses of the higher tier mons like the water types and the stuff, because especially the special defense of Regice is absolutely insane.
Yeah, and like if you try to close combat it, they got Sylveon there. Like they have a lot of switch-ins.
Yeah.
And then you got Blaziken, who I believe has speed boost and protect, speed, boom.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom. So this is a very big threat of a team. Really excited to see what they can do. Again, I personally don't like the fact that they don't have a flying type, but they also don't have to worry about the Mold Breaker Excadrill, because they are the Mold Breaker Excadrill.
Exactly. Overall, very solid team. It's gonna be very scary, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Next up, Sacramento Sandslash. You got a Zygarde. That's enough said. Zygarde's scary.
All right. Enough said. No. Get rid of that Blastoise. Throw him out in the trash with the War Turtle, okay? Put a Pelipper or a Gyarados on here. Ooh.
Yeah.
Face, dude.
Could be good. But I think the main strange thing about this team is you got a lot of fast things, and then you got Hatterene Bronzong, which like Trick Room. So, I mean, you could run Trick Room with like Pangoro and stuff, but your team is so fast, I feel like it'd be better off replacing Hatterene with something like maybe one of those bulky flyers we were talking about, or because you're still scared of ground types for on most of your stuff, like Nihilego and Um, uh, you're scared of Excadrill because of Mold Breaker on the Bronzong and the Mag Mortar. So you got a lot of Ground. Ground is just a monster in this league. So y'all gotta look out for that.
And for this person, you have one of the strongest ground types, and then people try to take that away from you by not picking up a flying type.
Yeah.
So.
And you got a solid Dragon Fairy ground Steel Core. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that's
really
gonna
like
help
the
it.
Bronzong and the Zygarde together. I say, like, I personally, when I looked at this team, I was like, it doesn't have a flying type, which bothers me. I know you have that E tier down there, but like I said, I ain't looking at them. Like, no.
Emoga's okay.
I looked at Pelipper on this team, and I looked at like even Mandibuzz on this team. They looking kind of.
Yeah, Mandibuzz looks good on a lot of the teams.
Sure.
And you got solid high tier picks. It's a really solid bulky offense team. I don't necessarily agree with getting rid of Blastoise. I think Blastoise is really good, but Hatterene does seem misplaced.
With Blastoise there, you do have a lot of priorities. You are looking to clean up and sweep. You're looking to whittle things down, and Zygarde to extreme speed. Blastoise Aqua Jet. It's like you're looking to do some nasty stuff. You have Sneasel, which is probably one of the most underrated low tier mons.
Absolutely.
Ice Shard, nasty.
Knockoff, triple axle, all that stuff.
Kick.
Low kick, yeah, it's great.
Remember that man that had a Snorlax that like wanted to eat everything? Low kick.
All right, so overall, super solid. A couple improvements would make this team even higher on this list, but it's still relatively high up there. I lost count because we keep talking a lot. We talk a lot.
I think this is second to last, or third. This might be third.
Third or fourth, maybe third.
This is third. The next team is the Garchomp team, and then the.
Hey, no spoilers.
I only spoiled their test here. That's how I remembered. You can't even count.
All right, so here's the Garchomp team. Second place. I think the top 6 on this, while Mantine is not ideal, I think still extremely powerful. That Fairy Dragon Steel Core, insane, really powerful. And then the Obstacoon complementing the Ghost weakness is, I mean, just great. Then you got the Arcanine for the Fairy coverage too. Like, it's fantastic.
The only thing I said about this team, because I really liked it, was they're mostly all physical.
True.
And that's not always a big issue. That's not really.
I mean, it is.
No, because no one picked up Skarmory.
True. There's a Corviknight in there.
So, yeah, but like, yeah, that's the only thing I see in it. But the potential of doing stuff on this team is utterly disgusting.
Yeah, and I will say though, if Mantine's not in, what's gonna save you from all the earthquakes?
Then what time is it?
What time is it? You're gonna...
Mantine.
Oh, Mantine. Yeah, because that pretty much means you have to bring Mantine every week. There's a good ground type because, I mean, Mantine doesn't really want to take a rock hit, but I mean, you really have nothing else to take those earthquakes.
Yeah, I mean, Garchomp can eat them, but that's at least 30%. Jirachi definitely doesn't want to eat them.
Clefable can, I guess.
Clefable gets 2 shot by most earthquakes, so that's not like you can run full defense Clefable, sure, and be just fine. Stall it out.
Yeah.
But that's like 20 turns you got to stall out.
Yeah.
Don't forget about that.
This one's second.
Everything gets earthquake.
Yeah. This one's second because of how good that core is, and the rest of the team complements it decently. But it could be better. And those bottom couple, I mean, Skorupi, Dottler.
Dottler is the only one I can see actually being useful.
Shiinotic's useful.
One of the Huh?
Yeah.
Shiinotic is useful. Yeah, in some cases. Raichu, a little bit too. But Dottler is the only one I can see being useful almost out of all the E tiers. Just because you can set up webs and keep it alive.
Like that.
Like that's a good E tier. Like we talked about, like
Decent
how
E
many
tier.
E tiers. Well, yeah,
They're still better. But yeah, overall, super solid team. Probably could use another flying type, something like that. Another water type maybe. Because those ground types, not going to be fun for this team.
yeah. I think with the Sableye, I see the ideal prankster stuff going on,
Hmm.
but you have two dark types. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, you don't really need more fairy weaknesses.
yeah. So
All right. On to
last,
the number one,
can you give me their name?
San Antonio Snorlax. So this team is absolutely disgusting. Like Landorus Therian, Slowking, Chansey, Gudra, Lucario, Inteleon, Regieleki, Decidueye. There's like no misses until your E tiers.
Yeah. Which, like I said, we don't look at them.
Yeah.
Don't look at them.
It's a little
Lucario,
yeah.
beast. Can't wait to see what someone else can do with it.
Mhm.
You you did exactly what I like to do, and make bulkier mons your top, and then like hard hitters like Inteleon and Lucario and Regieleki your
In the
main.
middle. Yeah.
The only one I don't agree on is your Turtonator as your
Fire. Yeah.
and slash like dragon, because it's just
Sure.
another bulky mon.
Yeah.
But I think like Scorch would have been really nice too.
Sunscorch could be good, yeah. But I will say he is lacking both a fairy resist and a fairy type. Because unfortunately Hatchram does not get fairy type until it evolves into Hatterene, which honestly, in my opinion, makes it absolutely useless. There's like no reason to have it. I guess it's decently bulky with Eviolite, and it gets magic bounce, so that's nice, but there's better options.
Yeah.
Definitely need a fairy type. Or even a steel type that is actually resistant to fairy. Or a poison type. Because fairies are going to be very problematic for your team.
Especially one with priority.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause you might
No
have
one specific.
Lucario. Yeah. I have Lucario, but I believe a Renigus will still do a lot.
Oh, yeah. And even if it's scarfed and it... What, does it get bullet punch? I think it gets...
It gets
something like
bullet
that.
punch.
Then it probably won't kill. So, yeah, fairy, big detriment to this team. But your team is extremely bulky, and like Chansey could take those fairy hits like nothing. No strong fire type either. Like you got Turtonator, but even that doesn't resist fairy. It's neutral, so like there's a couple problems, but overall this team is disgusting. Like the top 6 alone, top 7, gross. And I definitely think it could do work regardless of lacking a fairy type. Especially if you get Inteleon set up or Landorus, you know. There's a lot of things you can do.
I'm very interested. You have a good pivot users and a good sweeper with the Inteleon and Lucario being like very fast and very, or either priority, and they hit extremely hard. That's really cool. I really enjoyed seeing this. But not having a fire type kind of sucks.
Good fire type.
Yeah, well, Turtonator.
It's not trash. I mean, it has its times, but I think on a team that's so weak to fairy, you kind of want something that resists it. Like
Also, a
Turtonator
team
doesn't.
that's already like pretty bulky. I don't think you needed a
True.
tier bulk.
Definitely didn't need another bulky.
Yeah, because already looking at it, you got stuff that take hits. You got the Slowking. You have Landers. Landers' defensive is just amazing. As much as like people want to scarf it and earthquake things to death, it's already got a high base attack. Why not just invest in defenses and live longer?
Yeah. I will say though,
But,
Gudra can take a fairy hit, even though it's weak. Salt Vest Gudra. So like it's not the end of the world. You have options. But-
Gudra is a bulky.
Super bulky. Yeah. So yeah, there's things you can do, and like I said, this is the highest rated team. So while there are flaws, like every team on this list was flawed, so don't be offended if we basically shat on your team because we are
I'm
looking for
still
those
the
flaws.
worst team though.
No, no,
Still
no,
am
no,
the
no, no,
worst
no,
team.
no. This
Yeah,
is the sleeper #1 team, Boston Badoofs. I don't know this guy personally, but he made a kick-ass
I,
team.
dude.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That crocodile, weak. That ferrothorn, weak. The wash, weak.
Don't you dare insult my duck, though.
Porygon is probably the most terrifying. No, it's not. Actually, this team is very terrifying.
Yeah, so
And
I didn't want to
it's
actually
probably
rate
fun.
this. I didn't want to actually rate my team, but I did feel like I should show it to you guys so you at least know what was drafted. So everything that was drafted was shown. Um,
I think also we should show it just for the fact that I've been complaining about the lack of flying types.
yeah,
And you weren't also one of them who was like, nah, flying, we don't need to fly where we're going.
I got 2
Yeah.
and a levitator.
I don't think you can ever go wrong with a flying type.
Absolutely not. I think flying is definitely one of the best types. Even though it has a lot of weaknesses, it's for a good reason because it's resistances and immunities are essential. Like fighting and ground, 2 of the most common types in the game, and scariest.
Rillaboom got picked up.
Yeah,
Like, Skarmory hurts.
yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you weren't too offended if you were too low on this list, and I hope that you liked the flaws that we pointed out. So maybe you can try and correct them in the future for with your transactions. I think we get 4 or something like that. I don't really plan to trade anything, so I don't know for sure. But this was fun, and I hope that you learned something and enjoyed. So if you have anything to say about our comments towards your team, feel free to leave a comment. We will reply with our thoughts to it. If you have any sleeper strategies you're going to try out, maybe. Or maybe don't post those because you don't want your opponents to see, but I mean, I ain't going to tell them, so.
Do you think you could 6-0 Makeda here? Just
Hey,
like and comment
I
down
welcome
below?
it. I welcome it.
Oh, 100%.
Because that just makes it
I want
interesting.
to see some memes on him.
Yeah,
That's for
and
sure.
and it is my first time doing a Wi-Fi league, so hopefully I could even get it to work. So we'll see. Thanks for watching. Once again, this was my buddy Hollowkid. I'll link him in the description as well, and check him out as well. He's in some multiple draft leagues, so we're gonna have a good time discussing all these draft leagues that we're in. So see ya.
I can't wait to use all your teams to bring him.
yeah, because he's gonna help me practice a lot. So thanks for watching, and good luck in the YCL.